Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k. Now in today's video we're going to be doing a bit of a prediction video for 10th edition on units that I believe are going to be much improved from 9th edition to 10th edition. So I'm not going to be talking about the OP units, I'm going to be talking about units that were, well, some of them were already good, but they're going to be much better in my opinion, and I'm going to give my explanation to why. So I believe I've got 10 today for you, and let's get into it. So the first one, now this one is a little bit of a cop-out because it was already a good unit. It's the Canoptek Barge, one of my favourite HQs from the Necrons Codex. But I believe it's going to be a much improved unit and a much improved character for 10th edition for a couple of reasons. The first reason is because of the speed of the command barge itself. It previously went 12 inches, it may still be 12 inches, but we've got a couple of new stratagems that are available that can now interact with our barge. The first one is the Epic Challenge stratagem, which is a new one for 10th edition, and effectively you give your command barge the precision ability in melee. So the fact that this thing moves 12 inches with fly, you're going to get into a unit that's got a character within the unit, it's an enemy character, and then you can do one command point, use the stratagem Epic Challenge, and all your attacks go straight onto the character leading that attached unit. So I think that's going to be a really decent option for character assassination, maybe even the secondary assassination in fact, but just getting rid of, removing buffs from your opponent's army. Now the second stratagem I wanted to relate this to was the Tank Shock stratagem. Now this is only one command point, again used on a vehicle. Command barge is a vehicle, and on the charge you effectively get, well, it depends on your strength going up against their toughness as well. So it all depends on, maybe if we've got say a War Scythe for example, that was strength 7, you're going to get 9 dice in total because your strength is 7. You've then got 2 more because you've got more than their toughness, so you've got 9 dice to play with, and any rolls of a 5+ or a mortal wound. So that's just the charge phase alone before you've even struck with your melee scythe. So I think those two combinations, when you combine those two things, I think it's pretty good. In fact, let me double check something. Is the Epic Challenge until the end of the phase, and you use it in the fight phase, so it's not in a charge phase, so those mortal wounds wouldn't actually apply to the character. That would be even more epic because that only happens in the charge phase, unfortunately. But still, I believe the command barge was pretty good already in 9th edition. I think it's going to be even better in 10th edition. So that's the first one. The second one is the Deathmarks. Now in 9th edition they were a little bit like Marmite. Not everybody liked Deathmarks unless you played the Mefrit dynasty in 9th. Deathmarks were a little bit subpar. I personally quite like them. I suppose it depends on your playstyle and your opponent's army. If you've got a regular opponent that likes to bring infantry characters perhaps, then Deathmarks were pretty good, weren't they? But with this precision ability and characters going within units, I think they're going to be massive. I think they're going to be really key for getting rid of those buffs again, very similar to the command barge in fact, but you're doing it from range. And Deathmarks have always been known to be pretty good throwing out extra mortal wounds on top of the damage. Now we haven't seen their datasheet as of this moment in time. It's the 6th of June as I'm filming this, so I haven't seen any Deathmark datasheets, but I'm going to presume they've got something good. It could be lethal hits, it could be devastating wounds, it could be just mortal wounds on top, we don't know, right? But I think watch this space with the Deathmarks, they're making a comeback. Number 3, it's the Skorpekh Lord. Now the Skorpekh Lord was pretty poor in 9th edition. He was well overpriced. He was a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none. He could shoot, but only at 18-inch range, and it wasn't the best. He could also fight. Very expensive though, and he gave out the buffs to destroy units, but it was just more beneficial for you to just bring more Skorpekh Destroyers rather than spend 130 points on a Skorpekh Lord. But I keep kind of relating to this, but the speed of these characters I think is going to be really key to be getting rid of these bodyguard units. Again, you can use the Epic Challenge stratagem. He's moving 8 inches, get into a unit that's got a leader inside that unit, use the Epic Challenge stratagem, take out the leader with the Hyperface Harvester or the Fencing Claw, whatever you prefer, and then if you've got some Skorpekh Destroyers alongside him, even better, you can take out the rest of the unit. But they're going to be pretty quick, and I think speed on characters is going to be essential for 10th. So that's my next prediction, which is the Skorpekh Lord. Now on a very similar vein, so it's kind of the same sort of argument here, the Lokhust Lord. Very same. It's the speed, the epic challenge stratagem. You get the war scythe on there. You could equip him with, well, I'm presuming the enhancements will be allowed on the Lokhust Lord. So yeah, I kind of don't need to sort of repeat myself, but I'm gonna use that as another one. The Lokhust Lord will also be a pretty good one. This one is going to shock you. It's the Canoptek Reanimator. I think this is going to be big. I don't know. We don't know the rules for it, but reanimation is obviously our key focus of our army rules for 10th edition. Reanimation protocols, in fact, is our army rule, and I think reanimation in general is going to be massive, especially if you've got a reanimator nearby. Now, we haven't seen the Reanimator's datasheet, we haven't seen the Technomancer's datasheet, but we have seen the Necron Warrior's datasheet, and they're getting D6 in terms of the reanimation protocols roll. Now, maybe that improves with a Reanimator, or maybe the Reanimator's going to give D6 to other units, perhaps, or just straight give us models back for nothing. I don't know. We don't really know, but I think having that reanimation, a model that can do reanimation for us, I think is going to be big. And we've got to make the absolute most of our major rules. That's something that in 9th we weren't really making the most of it, apart from the Technomancer. That was one of the real good ones, but the Reanimator just didn't seem to synergize as well, because, I mean, you spend the points on the Reanimator and you've then got to literally roll those 5+ rolls to get models back, and it didn't always kind of work out in terms of the points you've spent and the investment you spent on the Reanimator in general. So I think as the rules are completely different in 10th edition for reanimation, this guy's coming back. On to one of the Cryptek models. This one's another shocker. This one's a bit of a dark horse. I've gone with a Psychomancer. Very rarely used it in 9th edition. It absolutely stank. The abilities stank. I had a severe dislike for how the abilities interacted. It was only 12 inches in order for you to do these debuffs. And at that stage, he's pretty much a goner because your opponent moves, charge, and away he goes. Now, with all these new debuffs, like giving enemy units battle shock to deal with and things like that, I think this could be sort of a clutch move, forcing battle shock on certain units to make them lose their objective control, perhaps. Now, again, I'm not saying that he's got that kind of ability. He probably hasn't. Well, maybe he has. I don't know. I'm kind of predicting here. That's the whole point of this video. But my prediction is he's going to be forcing Battle Shock, because one of our units has to force Battle Shock. We've seen it in other faction focuses, and the only one I can really think of that could do it would be the Psychomancer. So that's A, the predicted ability that he's going to have, and B, why I think it's useful. So yeah, Psychomancer. Another sort of lower tier character model from 9th edition. He done really well at the start of the edition, but then very quickly faded away. Is the Royal Warden. Now, as these models are going to go into units with the leader keyword, going into an attached unit with the bodyguards, I think the ability to fall back and shoot is what he's likely going to have if it continues from 9th edition. Having that with a unit of Necron Warriors, perhaps, could be the way to go. I mean, he might have a complete different ability at that stage, because he was a new model for 9th edition. Also, would we rather have a Necron Overlord or something? I mean, we don't know what the Overlord buffs are, do we? But having the Royal Warden in there with the Awakened Dynasty keyword, no, the Awakened Dynasty detachment roll, sorry, we're going to automatically get a +1 to our hit rolls. Now, unfortunately, Warriors hit on a 4+ now, but it will go to a 3+ with the Royal Warden in the actual unit. So if that ability is still there, falling back and shooting with a +1 to the hit roll, it could be a cheap character. And again, our Dynasty code now is specifically saying characters are going to give the +1 to the hit rolls. So they're clearly pushing characters for Necrons. These noble type characters are going to be a massive way of for us to actually win the game. So Royal Warden is my next one. I don't know what number we're on. I've already lost count. I think I'm on number 8, right? If I'm not on number 8, I've messed up. But the next one, number 8, I think, Annihilation Barge. Annihilation Barge, it had its little moment in 9th edition where it had core and it could do ancient machineries, and then they took that away from us. Then, you know, vehicles couldn't do the action anymore. So it had its little bit of a moment in 9th, but I think it's going to come back. Again, the tank shock ability could be there. Also, we don't know fully how well the weapons are going to be, because, well, in 9th edition we knew that if a weapon had strength 7, 0 AP, 1 damage with exploding 6s, we knew Apart from the exploding 6s part, we knew the weapon was pretty poor. Strength 7, it was not going to be any use against vehicle models or light vehicles and monsters because of the damage being 1. And Strength 7 against infantry was too overpowered in terms of the strength. I mean, Strength 6 would have done the job just fine even against Death Guard at a toughness 5. It still would have wounded on a 3+. So we were paying a little bit of a tax having the extra strength when we didn't really need it. It didn't also have any AP, but now the strength has gone up in terms of vehicles because of the toughness going up on vehicles and monsters. So I would expect the strength of this weapon to go up slightly, maybe even massively. I mean, there has been some shockers in terms of big changes for 10th edition, and maybe the Twin Tesla Destructor is going to be one of those changes where we get a lot of damage output. Complete flip reversal of the role that the Annihilation Barge has for 10th edition. So this one is probably another dark horse. It might not be that great, but if it does get that weapon buff as well as the tank shock ability, that could be pretty good. Number 9, the Canoptek Doomstalker, another one that was a bit of a flunk in 9th edition. Some of you guys liked it. You had 3 in a triangle when you were doing Mega Overwatch and having the Technomancer buffing it with the Canoptek control node with the +1 to hit. Yeah, it was a strategy, but it had a pretty unreliable weapon. D6 amount of shots, D6 amount of damage. Now we've seen from the Doomsday Arc that the damage went from D6 to 4 damage. Now I'm presuming they're going to do something similar or better for the Doomstalker. But if it's still got those abilities with the Overwatch, it may actually come in pretty handy, and with that damage in particular, that could be good. So the fact that this was so bad in 9th edition and it was a brand new model, they've got to bring this back to life, surely. And as for number 10, this one's another little bit of a cop-out. I've gone with the Silent King. Now, the Silent King was already very good. He was very good in 9th edition. He was in a lot of lists. At one point, he had core, and it was ridiculously stupid, and you were bringing back Tricomineers and all sorts of stuff. But I still found him to be pretty... I said this in another video, pretty mediocre. He wasn't killing as much as I wanted. Apart from the 2 Tricomineers, they were doing stuff with their damage 6. But the Silent King himself wasn't doing enough. It was sort of a scatty amount of, in terms of melee, it was a bit scatty because the damages were all different kind of damages. The strengths were all different kind of strengths. And in terms of the range attacks, very similar story. Now I reckon he's going to get a massive bump in everything. Because I'm looking at other, I'm looking at the Lionel Johnson from the Dark Angels, Gulliman, all of these epic heroes, the big ones. I know they're Primarchs, but they're all getting mega abilities, mega buffs. The weapon's absolutely mad. And the Silent King is our mad unit. I know he's not a Primarch, but when they released him, he was meant to be up there, the guy that can take out these kind of models. So I think he's going to get a huge bump in abilities, weapons, strength, toughness, everything. So I can't wait to see that. And that's the one thing that I'm really hoping for, because I started to just not use the Silent King as often in 9th edition. I just found him not doing much. So I kind of left him out. But yeah, that's my number 10. Yeah, you'll have to let me know. I don't necessarily need you guys to put the top 10 in the comments, but maybe put a top 3 of what you think is going to be good units for 10th edition for Necrons. Now I'm also going to be doing what I believe are going to be units that are going to stink for 10th edition as well in the next video. So keep your eyes out for that one. But for today, we'll just have to say thank you all for watching. See you in the next one.